So as we talk about push-ups, something to keep in mind. First of all, we're working the chest, the shoulders, the triceps, and we're also hitting the delts and the serratus anterior. And beyond that, we get into core muscles, quads, calves, and all of those other supporting muscles that kind of have to help through the plank action of a push-up. Why are push-ups important? The push-up teaches us to use our shoulder in any action involving our arm for pushing. So it also teaches us to use power and stability through the movement of our arm. This becomes really useful for things like pushing a stroller, pushing a shopping cart, pushing a vacuum, pushing somebody off of a cliff or your balcony because you've been stuck inside with them for too long. But really, it's one of the 6 foundational movements that we can do. Push, pull, hinge, squat, lunge, and rotate.
This is Jess from 3-Way Fitness, and this is Dee talking about Jess from 3-Way Fitness. We're going to break down some major components of the push-up this week. So our first component we want to look at is our hand and elbow position. So starting from our first point of contact at the hands, we want to make sure our hands are very active. So we're spreading the hands and making a firm grip, kind of like we do with our feet in the squat. Then to create some extra stability, we're going to try and screw our hands into the floor. You can see that when Jess does this, her hands don't move, but it actually changes what her shoulder's doing and gives her a lot more stability from the rotator cuff at the top of the shoulder there. So now once we have that set up, as Jess starts to drop down, she's going to make sure her elbow stays in line with her wrist. If the elbow starts to flare out, that's usually a sign that the shoulder's starting to lift and rotate forward, which is going to likely cause some pain or pinching as you go into your push-up. Then once we come up to the top, we want to make sure we're setting the shoulders nice and strong. Our next main point for the push-up is going to focus on our shoulders, specifically the scapula, which are the shoulder blades. Our scapula should be an active part in the push-up. Before we initiate and drop down, we want to retract or squeeze the shoulder blades together. Here it looks like Jess is sinking down, but if you can see, that movement only happens at the shoulders, not at the elbows. Then once she's gone through her push-up and gets back to the top, at the top there she's going to protract or push her shoulder blades away from each other, like she's trying to get a stretch between those 2 shoulder blades. By doing this, we actually bring more stability to the shoulders, and we give something for the arm to have support for it. Our third component of the push-up is that we're going to focus on holding our neutral spine by maintaining solid core tension. So especially as we're focusing on our scapular movement, it's really easy when we squeeze the shoulder blades to just let the spine and the abs go. So that's where we might see the low back sag. We want to make sure we're pulling up on the pubic bone and not looking like a weird lizard like Jess looks like right now. So we're going to pull up on the pubic bone, draw down on the ribs gently so that we still keep the collarbones open so our shoulders are stable. And then we hold that plank as we dip down into the push-up. So we shouldn't see the low back move from the top to the bottom of the push-up. That tends to be the first thing to go when we're challenging ourselves in a push-up. So really lock that in and check in on it every rep. So if we look at our elbow position in the push-up, we want to think about being somewhere between 45 degrees between the shoulder and the ribs. We tend to want to bring our elbows right in line with the shoulders, but that actually puts us at more risk and takes away a lot of our stability and torque. So we want to make sure that we find that sweet spot close to 45 degrees. Everyone's shoulders are a bit different, so there might be some slight variation, but that's our goal with our elbow position, to stay safe and to be most efficient. We're going to break down our hand position a bit more now. Everybody's hand position is going to be a little bit different. You want to find what works best for you. Typically, a good rule is to set your hands up a little bit wider than shoulder width. It's likely going to be similar to where you bench press as well. The wider your hand position goes, the more pec you're going to feel, and the narrower your hand position goes, the more tricep you're going to feel. And where you feel comfortable is going to depend on your shoulder anatomy. Also, you notice Jess tended to do her push-ups in more of a narrow stance. This is where she prefers to do it, and a lot of her training goals depend on having strong triceps and working in a close grip position. So you can choose how to do your push-ups based on what your goals are.
Hey guys, so one really important thing to keep in mind with all of these variations that we're about to show you is that they are meant to allow you to progress or regress as you need, when you need. None of these are about defeat. Everybody has to start somewhere. The more that you practice this action, the better you'll get at it, and the more progressions you'll be able to do. Just like everything else, the more practice, the better. You build up not only muscle, you build up form, and you build up the mental acuity with the emotions and feelings and everything that's intrinsic to being a human.
Jess is going to show us push-up negatives. This means we're going to focus only on the eccentric or down phase portion of the movement. This is a great way to regress the push-up if you can't do a full one off the floor. Doing the negative lets you still focus on holding the whole length of your body as you control correctly through the down phase of the movement, but then you just pop onto your knees to come up so it's easier, and then you reset into your full lever length to drop down. It's a really great way to help you get used to holding your full body weight and get used to controlling the movement through the full range all the way down. This is a great way to regress your push-up. By putting your body on an incline, it's going to take some of the weight off of your upper body and make it easier to go all the way through your full range. But because we're staying on our toes, you're still used to using your full body length for the weight. So you can find any surface you have in your home. Jess here is using a very sturdy looking lawn chair. So we're still going through all the same mechanics of our usual push-up, but taking some of the weight off. And you can work yourself going lower and lower on different objects in your household. So with this one, we're going to take a wider hand position than usual, which is going to put more of the focus into the pecs and take a little bit of tension off of the triceps. With that wider base, you might feel a little bit more stable. We are going to feel a bit more of a stretch as we get to the bottom. We're getting a stretch in our pecs. So it is firing that pec on in its most lengthened position when we get to the bottom, but then we're going to feel it's a little bit easier to make that lockout at the top. So there's a lot of ways we can adjust all our exercises, and by slowing the tempo and pausing through the movement, we can really challenge them without adding any extra stress on the joints or ligaments. So here Jess is doing maybe about 3 seconds down with a couple seconds pause at the bottom. She can slow it, pause it at any point. You can even do a midway pause on the way down or the way up. That makes it extra brutal on those pecs and triceps. Or if we wanted to be really mean to Jess right now, we could give her a 20-second eccentric. So she has to take 20 seconds to get all the way down to the bottom. And then I suspect she'll die by the end of this. But we love you. It's not 20, Jess. That was more like 10. So to focus on our triceps, we're bringing our grip a lot narrower, so hands get closer to the body. The narrower we go, the less help we're going to get from the pecs and the more focus we're going to put onto the triceps. The closer and narrower you go, the more tricep burn we're going to get. And generally, as we close off that grip, we create less stability for the shoulder. So you might notice you lose range of motion toward the bottom and you have to go shorter and shorter in your range of motion. The closest we can go is into our diamond push-up, which will be an extra challenge. This just means we're putting a lot of tension right into the triceps. Jess does a nice job of keeping her shoulders stable all the way through, even though she's restricted her range. This push-up variation is a staggered push-up. So of course Jess isn't doing a push-up, but this is mimicking what her hands are going to do once she's in position. So you can see how one elbow is going to stay close to the side. On that side, we're going to get more tricep focus. And then on one, we're going to go wider, which is going to focus more on the pec. So it's going to shift how you feel centered in your push-up, which is going to make it feel challenging. So now that she gets in position, we can see that little stagger is changing how she's feeling the tension through it. She's still thinking about all those same main points in her push-up and now is getting more of a challenge out of it while having to center herself. So this is where we put our feet up elevated onto a surface that's higher. This is going to put more load and more tension into your upper body. So the shoulders and chest are going to take on a lot more work. The higher the elevation, the harder the push-up is going to feel. You'll really want to make sure you're checking in with the core because this is where you're a lot more likely to let that neutral spine go. Just like that. Way to go, Jess. Way to be creepy with your push-ups. This is a great one to help you work towards doing a handstand push-up. It's also going to put a lot of extra range of motion into the hamstrings. So Jess here has popped her feet up on a box so she can really focus on the shoulder intensity here. So this ends up translating more toward our shoulder press instead of our chest press. So yes, we're still going to get triceps, but we're going to get a lot more tension into the shoulders, which is why this might feel a lot weaker than your normal push-up. So we still want to think about keeping a neutral spine. And so by elevating on that box, it's going to make sure that she doesn't end up curling her tailbone through the movement. It lets her get that full range out of the hamstrings.
Hello. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And click that little bell icon so that you know when we release new content. Also, please add us on social media because, you're supposed to, I guess. At 3wave_fitness on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We also have a Patreon account. It has some great tiers for you to check out, and the link is in the description below. Guys, we love doing this stuff for you, and we'd love to hear from you. If you would like to comment on our videos here, that's great. If you want to talk to us over social media, awesome too. Thanks, guys. Continue to stay safe and healthy, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help you.